everybody. Welcome to the show. We are live. We are ready to build a watch. We have Philip here from
What's
Time
going
Panda
on? What's going on? What's going on?
He's ready to rock and roll for a
Ready to
second
rock.
episode. Hope you guys enjoyed last week's. We went over the basic Q&As. Today, we're going to be doing some other stuff that Phil will be telling us about in a minute. But before we get there, let's just say hello to everyone in the audience. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us. All right, Phil, take it away. What do you want to tell us today?
All right, guys. So last week was the first time on the show, and I want to say thank you very much. If you've been on the show or if you came and stopped by and hung out, it was a lot of fun. We've got a pretty cool watch build, but I realized that as I was going through that, I may have rushed things a little bit, and I want to make sure that I'm delivering the best amount of information to you. So I'm going to slow it down a tiny bit this time. We're going to do another build, but this time I'm actually going to explain some of the tools that I keep handy, and I've got everything laid out over here so we could keep it a little more of a flow for you guys. But once again, we're still going to go through and build a watch, but I'm going to try and be a little more meticulous about the steps and explain a few things.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I like that. You know, first we did the full approach. Now we'll do the slow down approach.
Now we'll chill out a little bit. And I've got this little camera here for that view for everybody. So if you guys want to, watch my hands and see what I'm doing down here, I'll be able to readjust this and point it so you guys can see it. And if you guys hear a little bit of rain in the background, I apologize, but we are on the top floor of our studio. So yeah, let's get to it.
The penthouse.
Were there any questions that might have popped up for last week, or Jay, or did you have any questions that you might want to?
I'm going to actually take a look at that right now to refresh my memory here. I think we had some comments. They were all pretty positive. I don't know if there were any questions. A lot of great shows. We enjoyed it. Amazing content.
Cool.
Amazing to see live. It was someone asked Ali to become the mayor. Oh, that was Mathis, mayor of Florida.
Yeah.
And, all right, let me see here. Really enjoyed the show. Very handy tips for us tinkerers and watch world. Looking forward to part 2. No questions, just a lot of compliments. So,
well, guys, I appreciate it. And maybe today I can answer some of those questions that people might have been too bashful to ask in public. So I'll just go ahead and throw some things out there.
Not to interrupt, but during a live stream, actually, when you popped on yesterday for a little bit, somebody did ask if you would do an episode to show how to calibrate a movement to get it within spec, or if you know how to do that or something.
I was actually no 100%. I know how to do that because I was bringing out my time grapher and I was about to sit it on my desk and I was thinking, you know what? After I put this watch together, I'll put it on a time grapher. But guys, for one, I love the sound of the heartbeat of my watch, so I can listen to that time grapher all day long. And two, some of those movements, not the movement itself, but the movement that you do with your hand, are so minuscule and so microscopic of a touch, depending on the movement you're working with. The Miyota, you actually have a little lever arm that you have to push. Salida, you have a little screw that you twist to go ahead and calibrate, which makes it a little bit easier for a little bit finer calibration. But when you're working with the NH movements, which we have today, that you're back and forth, slow plus, and then sometimes you might need to go ahead and mess with the beat error. I like to get as close to a 0 beat error as possible with a 0 second loss per day. I never want to have it less. If I am anything, I always want to be a little bit fast because I'd rather be early for something than late for something. That's just my reasoning. I think that's pretty reasonable to expect from people. So when it comes to regulating a movement, literally, I can, if it's a tough one to regulate, be there for hours. And I would hate to really sit here and put people through that. But what I can do is at least dive in, show you what to do, show you the little microscopic movements, what the machine does, what to be looking for. So this way you can sit down and have this at least as a background and a starting point for yourself. To this way, you're pointing yourself in the right direction and you're not going to make any undoable mistakes. That's what I can do when it comes to regulating, unless you want to sit here for 3 hours. I'm just saying we can do that all day long.
Overview sounds good.
Cool. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gents, today, let's just go ahead and start by some things that I would recommend if you are going to build a watch that you definitely get. There's some 100% necessity, and then some things that are, it's nice to have. Okay, 100% necessity. Something to open up. Well, even first, something to get your bracelet and or strap off. You have two kind of, these are what is known as spring bar tools. There's two different, and a little pusher on this one, and I'll put it right here so you guys can see it right here.
Yep. Hold on, let me swap
You're
that.
good.
Oh, there we go.
So these are spring bar tools, okay? Now this one, you actually just kind of, you'll go in between here, kind of like this, not on your wrist, obviously, and just move that spring bar down and pull it out one at a time, nice and slow. Whereas this one, for instance, if you have your case, and this is the case we are going to be working on today, you'll typically have your bracelet attached like this, and the spring bar will be in there, but you'll actually set it like this, and you'll typically have a little hole right on each side of that spring bar. You just kind of sit it right on two little notches and let it rest there and seat properly and make sure it's seated properly. Then just a little squeeze and pull. Makes it nice and easy. These are the best ones I like, but sometimes you could have a little bit of a difficult kind of a strap or whatever's going on. You might need to get in there and just kind of put a little pressure on the strap, hold it, pull this down a little bit, flip it over, do the other one, and gently take it out. But be careful with both of these because you can easily go ahead and damage the back of your case. And that's kind of something you want to avoid, which this can help a lot by doing that.
Have you ever tried the ones that look like they kind of look like a tweezer that have like tension when you push them? But they're a little different.
Oh,
like
no, I have not. Yes, I know what you're talking about. No, I have not used those. I have not had an opportunity to use them. I wouldn't mind using them, but I have.
They're really good.
Are they? I would love to try them. So if you want to send some over to me, I wouldn't mind.
I actually do have one. I think it's a Bergeron. No, it's not the Bergeron because those were super expensive. But it was like a good one that was close to it, but much more affordable. I just don't know where it is right now. It's funny. I had all my tools in like a little taco pouch, and I don't know where I put the pouch. So.
Oh no, man.
Yeah. But if I do come across it, I'll shoot one over to you.
My watchmaker might have one. By the way, his name is Adrian. Really cool dude. He's a partner with us on this, and he also brought over a lot of his tools, and we use a microscope. And he might have a couple of other things. Like he just brought over a sharpener for my screwdriver set, like the little rolly thing with the block and the oils. Sure, yeah. And oh god, that thing is. I just went through it. My tools were sharp and they were fine. They didn't need it, but I just went through and sharpened my tools anyways. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, pretty interesting. So that's just another one of those things that's good to have. You don't necessarily need it, people. But let's go ahead and say things you definitely do need. One, to go ahead and build the watch. First thing you're gonna need is the watch itself, the movement, the dial, the hands, obviously all those things. Here we go. We got a bracelet for this. We've got the hands for this. We've got the movement. We're actually going to do a rotor again on this one, JJ. Pretty cool. Nice. And this one's actually engraved. I'll show you. It's got the TP logo on the back of it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So what do you send those out to get?
No, we do this in-house.
Oh, you do?
An engraver.
Very nice.
Yeah. So we'll be getting that on there. And then we have our bezel and our dial. Now this dial, JJ, this dial right here, it's going to be special, guys. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty interesting watch. And if you can already kind of tell which watch this is being homaged to, I hate to say that, but this is an homage case. And, a lot of what our sales are is homage cases. And we like to mix it up. I, might throw this dial in that case or this strap. It's fun. And I let people choose and they have fun doing it. But out of that, I've learned how to build many watches. So
customizable is good, especially when you're working with a tried and true platform, of a solid movement and a case.
The NH35 is so good. It's such a solid movement. It's Japanese. It's basically the Seiko movement. It is the Seiko movement. And I'm not even going to try to find out where the start and beginning of this little plastic wrap thing is. We all hate these things. But this is going to be the case. And we got our bracelet. Like I said, we've got everything. But some of the tools we're going to need. Next, you're going to need to open the case. Now, a couple ways to open this case. You have a nice little Bergeron ball, this little black ball that come in different colors. And if I'm not mistaken, the different color correlates with maybe its stickiness, so that when you kind of hear that, that's the tackiness of the ball, to where it kind of makes a friction tack to the back of this case. And you won't damage it with any of your metal tools or anything like that, especially on a brand new one. Brand new one, You don't need it typically. If it comes with nothing in it, it's never been assembled, it's really easy to just touch this to the back and just kind of twist it off. See, look how easy that. Just
nice.
I barely do anything. I'm not even like putting any indent on the ball.
That's pretty cool. Looks like an 8-ball too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? And now there's also inexpensive ones that you could get off of, you know, Amazon or anything like this for like $9, $5, something like this. But my watchmaker, he's like, here, don't use that one. This one's Bergeon. Use that one. I was like, okay, it looks good on camera. We use the Bergeon. It means I'm a watchmaker, right? No, it doesn't. Just get the tools for the right tool for the right job. So let's go ahead and say the next tool I like to have, specialty tools. Let's go in order of how we're putting the watch together. So once we've got the dial on the movement, which we'll go ahead and open up a movement and show you what a movement looks like in case nobody's seen one before. And before I touch my movement, I'm going to be a good little boy and put on my finger cots because I got yelled at last time for not wearing my finger cots right away. I'm like, okay, all right, I get you guys. Thanks. Call me out right on live YouTube.
They're keeping you honest.
How many people we got watching right now, if any?
We have, I think, hold on one second. I think it says 25 now.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Phil, and I'm building a watch.
It takes a little bit to get a few people to come in. You know, we're only on 10 minutes, so it takes a good 15 minutes to people to see the notifications.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm just always kind of on YouTube and watching anyways. So.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, these are finger cuts. What these do is you're basically wanting to keep any contaminants or anything like this off of the movement because the movement is going to be sealed basically. I'm not going to say hermetically because it hasn't been vacuum sealed, but well, it'll be sealed from all climates and conditions. So I guess hermetically sealed. But once it's sealed, anything that's in there will be stuck in there. And if you guys see a beautiful woman walking around and clicking the camera, that's my wife. She's doing some BTS for us today. That's where we get some of the photos for this show. But you don't want any of your finger oils or anything, you know, your chicken that you might have had earlier that day or Chick-fil-A, French fries, those waffle flies are dank, getting on your movement and leaving your fingerprints behind. So use your finger cuts. But guys, this is a movement. So be gentle with the movement. You really don't want to have it all out and about and touching it all the time. I try to touch it and move around as little as possible because it is a really, really small piece of awesome machinery. You know what I mean? Like right here, I'll point a couple of things out for you guys, and I'll do it with a plastic pointer. And here we go. This right here, which is better? Actually, yeah, no, this is better. So this right here, this is where we at. That's your balance wheel, okay? And that's attached to the whole escapement is basically everything that makes your watch tick. It's basically the heartbeat of your watch. And you really kind of want to be gentle with that because the hairspring that's in there, it's super sensitive, like a hair. It's very thin. It can be easily damaged. And one of the things when you're regulating it, you're pretty much right over the top of that hairspring, pushing it like hairs of space, not much at all. And one small slip, it's going right into this. So you got to be really delicate with it. Keep it aside and keep it covered up.
Before we go to the next step, we just say hello to a few people in the chat. We got Birminghard in the chat. Good to see our friend Birminghard. We have ZM Capture Images in the chat who says Time Panda watches are going to the moon. Can't wait to get mine. Very nice, very nice. We got Jay Giddy in the house. And this, I think, was the question I was asking before from Garth. He wanted to know, can you teach us how to tune a watch caliber in COSC 5 positions?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I think that might be a great episode. Maybe we can make a full episode out of that if everybody doesn't mind the noise tick, 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 nonstop for the entire episode.
ASMR watch talk, man.
ASMR watch, right.
And we
so,
got
I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got just 2 more. Yeah, that would be great to do. And then we got a $2 super chat from Ryan Hofrey. Thank you, Ryan. He says, love to see a master of any craft. Awesome. Thank you, dude. There we go. Mikey Cassio says, nice little setup, Phil. And Captain Kirk wants to know if you mentioned where you get your dials. I know you do customize your own, right?
Oh, we customize our own, and I've got a few factories that I deal with out in Asia. I'm not going to lie, full transparency, but we also have a couple of American factories that we use for a little bit more custom dials that we like to use. But the rather simple, just one-offs, really quick, especially if I buy them in MOQ, you can get them off of Amazon. You can find them on eBay. And I believe most of those are coming from, some of them even come from Turkey. So import. Yeah.
Got it.
Easiest way to do it is import. But now with the T word, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to do it. Oh my God. I just watched our friend Mark's video. Poor Mark. I understand his pain, but you know, that's all part of growing, I guess. And hopefully let's get away from it. Move on. We're here to talk about building watches.
Right.
All right. So now that, like I've said, we showed you the movement, and once you get the movement, you're going to wind up putting the dial on the movement, and then the dial's on the movement. Now you have your hands. A couple of the things you're going to need for working on the hands. One, I like to put the movement on this pad. You could pick these pads up pretty inexpensive, once again, from Amazon. You could get your hand pusher tools. That's these guys. And if you see the tips here, there's little holes in them, and those holes have different sizes and or don't even have holes, such as this one, which is a little more flat of a press. Yes, I guess it does have a little bit of a concave on it, but it's a little more for flat. They're depending on what you're trying to press down and push in, you used a different hole. For instance, let's see, this one right here has the biggest hole, and this is the one that we use to go ahead and put on the hour hand and or your GMT hand, whereas these two I use for the minute hand and the second hand. So that's where we're at with those. And these are your hand pushers. Now there's also one that's like a little machine that's in a plunger, and it keeps it nice straight up and down. You can just kind of put your movement underneath it, hold your tweezer, and then push the little plunger thing down from the top. I don't like that. One, because if I had a really good one, I probably would like it. But the cheap ones, it's not a straight push, and there's almost no control on it. Whereas this one, I feel I have a little more control. And like I've mentioned before, if I notice the hand is either pushing or tilting forward or tilting up, I can manipulate it by either pushing left or right or front and back, depending on how it's seating on the post. So I like to have my little free hand, and you can nudge the hand in place with this if you need to. It's made of plastic, and not going to damage anything. So these are your hand pusher tools. All right, guys. So now that we've got the hand pusher tools out of the way, we've got our spring bar tools out of the way. We have now, let's say you accidentally put your hands on wrong, or you get a watch and you're trying to service it and clean it. You need something to remove the hands and start over and or begin repairing that watch. These are hand removers. They look like little hands. Check that out, right? Well, what they do is you go underneath your hands and you just kind of pop them up. Now, things you kind of need to use in conjunction with these things is, I'll show you. We've got these little dial protectors. I'm not going to take them out. No need to get it, but I'm sure you can. Oh, wrong. Let's go here. These little Bergeron dial protectors. So what they do, I'm trying to get that glare going. There we go. As you can see, it's got a little slit. I'm sure you can understand how these would work. You just slide them underneath the hands and over the dial, right? So where it just kind of sits like this. And then let's make it like that. And then whatever's left and right of it will wind up protecting the dial from when you come close with these metal hands and get underneath there. The next thing I also like to do is either a piece of plastic, a plastic bag, or if you're like me and you buy a lot of watches, chances are you have one of these pieces of cellophane, plastic, static electricity things that stick to everything, even itself, right? So what you do is you find a nice thin one, you pull it off, and then I'm not going to try to take this all apart, but you put it over the top of the dial. Now, if you don't have these Bergeron little dial protectors, you can get away with using a thicker one of these to protect the dial once you put the hands over the top of it to pop it up, because you can kind of still pry through these and get the hands and pick it up. I highly advise against that because you can very easily damage that dial. These are the way to go, but this winds up being important because These hands are typically on there with a lot of compression. They're kind of wedged on there, nice and secure. And when you're literally popping them off, you'll hear them pop. And if you don't have anything laying over the top of those, chances are one of those hands, most likely the second hand, which is sitting over the top of the tube like this, will go flying because that's the lightest one of the bunch and you'll never see it again. So put something over the top of it just to keep from flick. And that also goes for if you're ever inside working on the movement and you're working on a spring or a screw that you're afraid might go flying and you're kind of moving something around, put something over the top, even touch it with a piece of a Radico or put your, your little post on it just to kind of secure it, just to keep that thing from flying out of the way. Just a good little piece of advice there.
Now, I know somebody's got to be thinking of the question, how come you don't take the hands off like one at a time? Wouldn't that be like safer or easier? I'm assuming
well,
you don't.
One at a time. There's such a small. I think you can. I've never. Guys, I'm still an amateur watchmaker here. I know how to do it. I know the process. I know how to do it well and without mistakes sometimes.
Well,
but
it seems like the standard is to take them all off. But
right, the standard is to take them all off. Correct. Now,
I would imagine you could bend one, right, getting in between them because they're very
right,
thin.
and you can get that's where I was going to lead to. I can't imagine there being a tool small enough. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, professional watchmakers out there, if there's a tool that can take individual hands off, I stand corrected, and I would love to know more about this tool. And maybe we could even get that tool on here and we could describe that tool. But for now, I would imagine getting in between those hands as precisely as needs to be to get in that gap without using a microscope or a high power magnet. Other than this is still not even enough. You would damage the hands, either scratch them and or bend them or damage their connection point, which is just a no-no. And then you're waiting another 3 weeks for a set of hands. Or damaged one-of-a-kind hands on an old Rolex. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that because that just kills the value. So be careful, take them all off at one time. Try to all line them up with each other, like maybe pointing at all at 12, get them there. So this way they're not all willy wonky going which way, and you can get underneath all from the same side and just kind of pop up, and they'll real easily pop up. And I try also not to rest on the dial. I put my fingers kind of underneath the backs, kind of, here, I'll show it here, you're good. Kind of underneath the back like this. And then put this on the pad and let these kind of hover and then go in and then just kind of roll my wrists because I don't want the back of these things touching the dials.
Sorry.
That's all right, JJ.
I'll follow you. Once you're
right, yeah,
it might take me a second.
I'll stay there for a second. Got you. You don't want the back of these things touching your dial because once again, you can scratch it and damage it, and there's no undoing that. So yeah, that's your hand puller tools, I guess we'll say, the little hand levers is the best way to put it. Okay, so now we've got the hands on, we've got the movement together, and on the hands, you've got your case, and you're about to put the case over the movement, and this entire time, there's a chance that dust has been falling on your desk, or unless you're in a clean room, it's just in the air. That's just life. It's the way it is. We can't avoid it. But what we can do is be a little bit proactive about trying to limit how much there is. One of the things, it's a specialty. It comes with this little tray. It's good for parts when you're working on movement. This one right here. It's good for parts when you're working on movements and such. Putting all the little parts in there. It comes with this little cover. There's nicer ones with a glass one. But if you want to try and save a little bit of money, you could also just go to a Goodwill and get a little pie cover thingy and just plop this, the big glass domes. I'm actually considering picking one of those up so this way I could have multiple things underneath there and have everything nice and covered. But this helps take care of that dust. So what we'll do is when we have the hands on the dial and we've gotten everything taken care of, we'll go ahead and it's sitting on the pad or in its dial or a movement holder. We'll actually just go ahead and sit it over there and put it off to the side. So now that we've got our movement all taken care of, now we actually want to start getting ready to put the case on the movement. Should I be doing this entire time? I guess we're just so I wanted to walk you through the tools. I could be building the watch, and I guess I could have been doing this, but now I don't want to waste any of your time doing that. Let's just go more in depth into tools, and then we'll do a build later on. Matter of fact, we're doing a build tomorrow on our channel. If y'all want to stop by there as well and see this actually built, we'll do that. But right now, let's just walk through the tools of what it's going to take to do this and get really in depth in that.
Sure.
think
Why don't if you want to drop the link for the channel, or you want me to?
Hey, Olya, go ahead and drop the link for Time Panda Watches channel in the chat. That'd be great. Guys, look for it in the chat. Olya is going to go ahead and throw a link to the channel in there. I don't have it scheduled or anything like that just yet, but it will be up there and you'll see it. Just go ahead and hit the, can I say it? Subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell.
Yeah. All you got to do is look up Time Panda Watches on YouTube. You'll find it.
If you just happen to stumble on this today, go ahead and subscribe, like, and go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to hit that bell. Ding! Right? Is that what they do? All right. So, yeah, let's just go through that. Now that we got the movement together, we got this case. You already know how to open up the case. I showed you with the ball. We open up the case, okay? Case is open. I'm not going to do this because I want to keep dust out of it. What we'll do is once you got the case out, most likely you've already kind of done this to set the hand and the time and everything like this, but you have the crown that comes with your case. And with your movement, you're also going to get a crown stem, if you could see it right there floating around on top of that movement.
Yep.
You'll actually go ahead and thread that on here and get ready to go and stick it in your movement. But once you go to put the case on the movement, you're not going to be able to put it on. You're going to have to take this out. Once this is out and the movement is actually in your case, you're going to actually have to trim this crown. Let's come up here. Let's stay up here for a little bit. Let's stay away from the hands for a minute.
All right.
You're actually going to trim this crown, okay?
I actually have a question about that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just about to ask things before you mentioned trimming the crown, the stem.
The stem.
Once you trim the stem, right? Let's say you have a whatever NH34 movement, right? And you buy you're putting in an SKX 007 case, right? For whatever, you know, like you did for mine.
Yep.
Once you trim the stem, now does that work with every movement, or is every movement specific? Like
so.
In your experience, at least, anyway.
All NH34 stems, 35 stems, and 36 stems. If I'm not mistaken, 36 is the same stem. All NH stems are exactly the same. They all work interchangeably. And if it's going from the same case to the same case, one stem will work to the next. But sometimes, depending on the thickness of the case, how, you know, if it's a 44 millimeter case, chances are there's a long distance between the outside of the case and the inside or the outside of the NH35, which means there's a big spacer in there, which means there's a longer stem to reach to the outside of the case.
Right.
There, you know what I mean? So therefore it won't, you can't interchange it. But if you have, let's say, an old NH35 stem and it's long, and you know that it's going to replace a broken, shorter NH35 stem, sure, use that one. As long as the threads in that one aren't stripped, make sure it's nice and clean and cut it properly, and you should be just fine. Yeah. But
so basically, they leave that adjustment to trim because of different variations in case.
That's exactly why they do it. Yes, because you don't know exactly what it could go in
travel
any
is going to be.
You know what I mean? I could put NH35. I think the smallest one I put it in is a 33 millimeter. All the way up to a 44 millimeter is the biggest one I put it in. So the difference between the outside of the case on both of those is substantially different. Hence, you need a longer stem or a shorter stem, which leads me to this. In order to accomplish that, you're actually going to have to cut your stem. Now, the way I cut the stem, and it might be, you know, you might have a better way of doing it that works better for you. But I found the way that works best for me. And we're still going to stay right here. So this way I could show you the tool and not really get too distracted. But once you get the stem, and here I'll show you the stem. Matter of fact, if you want to switch to this lower camera,
sure.
I'll show the stem right here. Here's the stem. If you guys can see that.
Yep.
And here's the part that actually interacts with the gears and all that stuff. The keyless works is the actual name for it. That's the part that interacts with it. Now, once you put this on, most people will go ahead and when you're ready to finally be done with it, you'll go ahead and put some Loctite on there. Right now, we just go ahead and thread it on there in its full length, uncut, and you put it in the movement. Once the movement is ready to go in the case, this needs to come back out, and then you need to unscrew this and get ready to trim the stem. Now, there's a few ways to trim the stem. I found the best way to do it is get a nice strong pair of needle nose pliers, grab it as low as you can on the threads, because chances are you're not going to use those part of the threads most likely ever, at least not in any of my cases. So this way you're not damaging the threads, and get a good grip on it. Okay. And then you're just going to use that to hold this tight and get it nice and secure. And once it's secure, you're going to get it kind of on there tight, but don't strip it out or anything like that. Just enough to where it's definitely seated and it's all the way down, because it needs to be all the way down in order to get an accurate measurement. Because the next time you screw it down, you might actually get it all the way down, but you based your measurement on one that wasn't screwed down all the way, if that makes sense. So make sure it's all the way down. It's nice and secure. Now that that's on there, we can stick it back in the movement without the case, obviously. Stick it back, or I'm sorry, this time it's in the case. You stick it back in the movement. I'm not going to do this because I have a piece of plastic in there. But once it's in there, you're going to see how much it does not actually push in. And right here on the outside of your case, you have this little tube. Okay. Now that tube is threaded, and that is where your crown actually seats on and then threads onto. Once this is in, you'll actually wind up seeing a little bit of a gap in between the top of that tube and the bottom of your crown. If everybody can see that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of faking it right now for you guys. What you want to do is you're going to need a set of calipers, or even a piece of paper. Some of these, even a piece of paper where you can make 2 marks and get a measurement. That works too if you don't have a set of these, but I highly recommend these because these come in handy for a lot of other things as well. You're going to actually measure, go ahead and switch right here. You're going to measure the distance from the bottom of your crown to the top of that tube. And that will give you a good measurement right here. And then you just use that to go ahead and judge how much you need to cut off the top of your stem. Now, once you've done that, you might do a little bit of back and forth, but in order to cut the top of your stem, you need a good set of these. These are called side cutters or dikes, or mostly called side cutters or dikes.
Yeah.
And then these are made out of a nice hardened steel, whereas you might be mistaken, oh, these look sharp, I'll just use something like these. These aren't as hard and as bullnose-ish, and they will most likely get all mangled up in here, and you'll maybe make it through about 4 stems before you need a new pair. I save these to cut my posts off of dials, because those are just copper and a lot softer of a metal and not going to damage them, and it keeps it nice and flush.
Plus, I'd imagine you could bend your stem if it's not.
Correct. And this, enough pressure, it just really quickly snaps it and just shears it right off the top.
Yep.
It leaves almost no damaged threads or anything like that. So now that you've cut that off and you've got this in your needle nose pliers and you're still holding it nice and secure, and you've done the trimming or you've done the measuring, and what I do is I put a little black mark where that measurement was, and I just leave a little bit of the mark still on there, so I know I can trim down a little bit more if I absolutely have to, if that makes sense. Because you want to put it in, pull it out, put it in, put it out, check it, make sure, because you might need to take a little bit more off. The last thing you want to be doing is be stuck with one that's too short, like this one down here, that could only be used in a 33 millimeter. And I hardly ever build 33 millimeters. So it's just kind of a backup in case I ever build a 33 millimeter. So that's how you cut your stem. Then now that that's cut, this is ready to go in, provided you got all the measurements right. We could come back up here. Provided you got all the measurements right and everything's ready to go, what you'll do is you'll have, hopefully your movement is sitting upside down, it's pointing, it's been covered. You take it off, you put it back in, make sure it lines up. You check the front, you line up the front of the case here. You make sure your 12 is lined up at 12, nudge it around a little bit if you have to. That's a big one. Make sure 12 was at 12. I actually set my lugs down on, I don't just hold it, I set it down on a nice level surface and actually eyeball it. Sometimes I have a little crosshair that I'll lay over the top just to make sure everything's where it needs to be. I'm kind of dorky about that, but I want you guys to make sure that this is all right too. So, you put some perfect out there. Anyways, now that we've got this ready to accept the stem, we'll put the stem in, okay? And once the stem is in, you'll realize, okay, that's going to sit perfect and it screws down. And then you'll just go ahead and, one thing I also forgot, this time you've been using this entire time, guys. This is your little puffer ball. This is your savior. It's like right next to you this entire time. See what happens when I'm not building a watch? I'm missing steps. Anyways, this thing's right next to you the entire time. You're blowing off everything all the time. It's dust mitigation. It helps a little bit, but you're about to seal up your watch now. Your stem is in, everything is good to go. The movement is working right. It's keeping good time because you put it on the time graph for a little bit. You made sure it was keeping decent time. You're about to seal it up for the last time. You're puffing it off. Now you put this on. Now you're pretty much done. The watch is sealed. Everything is good. And you flip it over and you realize, oh, wait, I still have a bezel to put on. So you say, okay, I got a bezel to put on. And you say, all right, guys, which bezel should I put on? Because you're live sitting here with you guys on YouTube. So I'm going to ask you for tomorrow. Let's get a little vote. Let's see how many people are watching and listening right now. I've got 2 bezels. I've got this matte black bezel. This one right here. And I've got this blue bezel. Which one would we rather see? Here's the other bezel, guys.
I'm just making a poll right now. Matte black or blue?
Matte black or blue?
All right, guys. If you would like to vote, the poll is open. Let's see what we get. Which bezel? I put bezel, but I meant bezel insert. I'm sure you guys know. Let's see what they pick. Right now it's 50-50. We're neck and neck. We'll see how we'll let it run for a little bit. And
all right. Well, I might as well go ahead and drop the surprise. You know what? I'm gonna make you guys tune in tomorrow. Like I said, we are going live tomorrow on Time Panda 24, where we're gonna re-put all this back into its packages, and we're actually gonna follow through with the build that we just kind of explained. So I guess look at this as a little bit of a teaser. You got to see some of the tools, some of the things that we work with here. You know, little tweezers. By the way, if you guys want to know some of my tweezers, let's talk about some of that. On Amazon, let's clear off some space for you guys. Don't worry, I'll get all this clean. It's all good. On Amazon, there's a few ways to go with when you're getting your tools. There's inexpensive ways, and there's, you know, obviously the higher horology, you know, professional tool ways. I suggest just start doing it. Get something inexpensive at first until you realize, hey, I really want to do this, because if you're just going to get in right away, it can be rather expensive. So guys, when I started, I just started using like these little plastic tweezers. Okay. And I still use these to this day because I know I'm not going to mess up my hands. Okay.
You know what a little helpful tip just from a complete novice.
Sure.
What I do is what I've done is start with a basic set, inexpensive, not, you know, junk, but something that's, you know, affordable and inexpensive. And as I go, if I say, you know, this one's a little annoying, I need to step it up, that's when I'll replace it kind of with a better quality version.
And what's really cool about those inexpensive sets will typically come with, yes, lower grade versions, but of exactly what you would need to do watch work. Okay. And sometimes the inexpensive sets, like you said, things in there work great and never need to be replaced. Or sometimes one of those things in that set needs to be replaced. Well, guess what? Replace that one thing.
Right.
And go buy that nice one thing. And that, you know what I mean?
Use, right? You hardly use something, like let's say you have a preference of, like, you like to put hands on manually. So before you go out and buy that expensive hand press, maybe see what you know.
So I bought the cheap hand press. And that's how I found out that I will never buy a cheap hand press again. And I also bought like a cheap case back press, and never going to do that again. By the way, there's a couple of the case or the crystal presses and the things like this and bezel presses and such. You'll see ones out there that are kind of shaped like this, to where the screw is right here and it's on like legs and it's attached to a little plate right here. Right. And you push down, the post comes down and pushes in like this. There are some that might be good. If you're putting enough pressure on it, that will start to open up and your bezel might, or your crystal might get pushed in cockeyed and crooked because that arm aluminum is starting to bend and no longer pushing straight down. Whereas there are ones where it looks like the bars are pretty much parallel on top of each other, and the legs go straight down through equally on each side, and the thing twists straight down through the center of it, and there's no like leaning. So be careful of the tools you get. It might be like, oh, that looks like a great tool, and then you go to use it and it just starts falling apart on you. And even good tools are designed bad sometimes. So you'll go through a bunch of tools. I went through quite a bit of tools to find out exactly what I need and what works best with my work style. And right now, guys, this desk is killing me, as messy as it is. But I love you guys, so I'm doing this all for you. If you guys saw this, man, it's really bad. So, but that's really all I got. Like I said, I would love to really put this. How much time have we got?
We're at 42 minutes, so we're pretty much 18 minutes from
an hour show.
Yeah, right? From an hour show. I mean, we wrap up early if that's what we got. That's cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. For right now, for this build, this is what I got. Let's go ahead and set this aside for now. I would love for you guys to finish this build with me on my channel tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And then JJ, let's go ahead, and I've got a watch that I also need to build. And let's go ahead and think about a show in this little bit of time that we have. What would you like to go ahead and plan for next week? We've gone over some tools. We've gone over a simple build. Maybe you want to do that time graphing next week and go over some of that?
That would be great. I think maybe we could do that next week. And if you if you want, I don't know, like we have to see if time permits, but I'm going to send you out that box I was telling you about. Maybe we could do that. Might be a fun episode. Were
there movements in there?
JJ's a pain in the butt. I have to.
That'd be actually kind of fun. I'll make a whole thing out of it. Were there movements inside of there?
Inside of what? What's that?
In that package that you're sending?
I'm sending you 2 movements. One I'm going to use because I have an extra case. The other movement is for you.
That's right.
With a dial, a set of hands, and
I'll tell you what. If you're here before next weekend, we'll go ahead and regulate those movements. Boom.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm waiting on. I think I have almost everything, but as soon as
if not, I've got plenty that we can regulate and work on. I've got a matter of fact, I'll even throw a watch out of regulation and bring it in, and I'll make it really bad. I'll make it look like it's a snowstorm on the graph.
Well, actually, there'll be one watch has a movement in it, so I don't know if that one was already regulated, but you could also. I don't know how many we want to go through, but
sure, I don't mind. So it all depends on if we want to get really in depth for them and go into beat error and explaining, or if we just want to show the basics of it, because it can get really in depth on what we're actually getting into. What was that? What was that last comment?
He says your bench is much tidier than most jewelers' benches.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. It's driving me nuts right now. Absolutely driving me nuts.
Captain Kirk says Swiss tools are insanely expensive. I do see there is, that's the one thing. There is a huge gap in between buying like professional tools and the Amazon tools. It's not like it's even close. But also the quality is not even not close.
The quality's not even close. Right. Like for instance, I don't know who. Well, I know who makes them, but like I said, we have a watchmaker, and I was using these plastic tweezers, and I bought these off of Amazon, and my first movement that I wanted to go ahead and work on was a 4130 movement. And if you guys are familiar with it, that's the Daytona movement, and it's got 204 parts in it, and if I'm not mistaken. And each one of those parts are really small. And when you're working on things like that, there's a little thing called flick, or we'll just call it flick. And that's when, let's say these right here, you might be pinching a little bit too tight because these have a high resistance and you have to push really hard to push down. And when you're touching those things, it wants to open up real hard. So you're always fighting against it. Well, you could catch the screw, or it could twist and it'll go ping and flick off and it's gone. Never seeing it again. That's known as flick. And you can see how hard, like, just to close that, you can see the spring, like you can put it down on the desk. It's like wants to pop back open. Like,
right.
You can basically flip it. Whereas these are Demants, okay? These are so like feather touch I barely have to put any pressure to close them and pick something up really delicately. Okay. And these stay sharp, and you can sharpen these still, like with our sharpening stone. I do take care of your tools. But that's the difference between $5 or $3. And I can't even imagine how much these cost. If anybody knows how much the Demont here, there's the little, if anybody wants to know, the S Carbon H by Demont. If anybody wants to see how much these are worth, that's how much you got to spend to get this. And luckily, I have a watchmaker, and he's on our team, and we work on watches, and he's teaching me, and he's like, hey, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. You're going to do it with the right tools, because we don't want to lose parts everywhere. And
I would imagine they got to be at least 40, 50 bucks. Right?
Something like this. Okay. They're decent. And then there's more specialty ones with curves and things like this to be able to get in different angles and approach differently and have a little more grip strength. Yeah, like specialty tools. And then you start going down the rabbit hole of, microscopes, different types of lighting, cameras, and it's a lot of fun. It's a huge rabbit hole, but at the end of the day, I can't find anything more gratifying than like creating something and having something to show for it. Oh, by the way, the Hamilton X, I love it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, it's big and bulky, but I don't even care. It's a big pilot watch, and I love aviation, so I'm rocking it today. Didn't build this one for sure, but we definitely have taken care of it a few times. So, guys, as far as the tools, like if you want, maybe we'll put a list together. Hey, JJ, I know you guys have watchers out there. I know we've talked about a collaboration on some watches and stuff like this.
Yep.
Any interest in there, if there's people that want to maybe get a kit put together for them, or are interested in learning how to build a watch, and maybe get a group together and get a couple people on here and work through a couple of steps together. If that's something you're interested in, leave a comment. Maybe we'll get some kits on your website. We'll throw some kits together and make them available for some of the people on the channel. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be fun. That would be fun. I think that would be like a little class, right?
Yeah. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. That would be interesting. By the way, the poll results are in if you're interested. Which bezel? 72% say blue. Okay. 27% say matte black.
All right. Well, I guess we will go with the blue tomorrow. So maybe not. Guys, tune in tomorrow for whether or not Phil goes with the blue or the matte bezel tomorrow on the Time Panda 24. Hi, Olga. Aw. There you go. Right there. Go right there. That's where you got. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. You YouTubers, it's right there.
You got to do the point down. You got to do the. It's here, or is it here? Right there.
Anyways, guys, like I said, these are the tools. Let's go ahead and maybe even I'll put a list together, maybe with some links to where people could get some of these tools. And guys, start building a watch. And if you want to know anything more, hit me up, shoot me a DM, and we will definitely go ahead and rock out some watches together. All right, guys?
Sounds good, man. All right. Well, that's episode 2, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to Phil's channel. Watch him build this watch that we discussed today. And we'll be back next week for another Build My Watch episode. Until then, we'll see you guys on Tuesday for our regularly scheduled live stream. And don't forget, guys, wear your watches.
And finger cuts. Wear your finger cuts. All right, guys.
See ya. Guys.
Hey, guys.